Okay, here's a weird question. We drink cow milk. We drink goat milk. Some people drink sheep milk. Humans have even figured out how to milk camels, yaks, buffalo, and reindeer. So, why not pigs? Pigs are mammals. They produce milk. Their milk contains fat, protein, sugar, and basically everything you'd expect from mammalian milk. Piglets are born, they nurse, they grow. The biology is completely there. So, what's stopping us? Why did humans look at a cow and think, yes, milk that, then look at a pig and somehow decide, absolutely not? And the answer has almost nothing to do with whether pig milk is edible. It has everything to do with the animal itself, the anatomy, the behavior, the economics, and thousands of years of human decision making. First, let's establish one thing clearly. Pigs absolutely produce milk. A mother pig, called a sow, can produce a surprising amount of milk for her piglets. The milk is nutritious, calorie-dense, and rich in exactly the kinds of nutrients a fast-growing young mammal needs. If you offered pig milk to a human in a glass tomorrow, nothing catastrophic would happen. People have tasted it. It's described as rich and fatty. So this isn't a story about poison or disgust. It's a story about practicality. And practicality is where pigs collapse completely. The anatomy problem is worse than you think. Think about how a cow behaves. A cow has a large udder with 4 relatively accessible teats. You can stand beside the animal, attach a milking machine, and collect liters of milk in a structured, repeatable process. The cow is calm. The equipment fits. The milk flows. The whole system is almost eerily convenient. A pig is completely different. A sow has a long row of small mammary glands running along her entire underside, sometimes as many as 14 teats arranged in 2 parallel lines from her chest all the way to her abdomen. Instead of one large centralized storage system, she has many small, individual milk outlets spread across a large surface area. You cannot attach a standard milking machine to this arrangement. The geometry simply doesn't work. But that's only half the problem. The other half is timing. The milk isn't sitting there waiting for you. Piglets trigger milk let down through nursing. They stimulate the teats, the sow responds, and milk is released in short, rapid bursts, sometimes lasting only 20 to 30 seconds. The entire biological system is designed around one specific scenario: a group of hungry, competitive piglets attacking the milk supply simultaneously. Every piglet claims a teat. They establish feeding positions early in life and defend them. The sow releases milk in these brief windows, and then it's over. There is no slow, steady flow. There is no reservoir. For a farmer trying to collect milk with a bucket or a machine, this is an almost insurmountable problem. Even if you manage to position equipment along the sow's entire underside, you'd be chasing a 20-second window of milk release, then waiting for the next cycle. The effort-to-reward ratio is terrible. Then there's the quantity problem. Even if you solved the anatomy and timing issues, you'd still face the fundamental math of pig milk production. A cow produces enormous amounts of milk relative to what her calf needs. This didn't happen by accident. Modern dairy cows have been selectively bred over centuries to produce quantities of milk that are wildly beyond what a single calf could ever consume. That surplus is what the dairy industry runs on. A high-producing dairy cow can yield 30, 40, sometimes even 50 liters of milk per day. The calf needs a fraction of that. Everything else goes to humans. Pigs aren't like that at all. A sow's milk production is tightly matched to the needs of her litter. And yes, pigs can have large litters, sometimes 10, 12, or even more piglets. But those piglets are extraordinarily efficient at consuming everything the sow produces. They are not leaving anything behind. There isn't a comfortable surplus sitting there waiting for a farmer to come along and claim it. The piglets get it all, and they get it fast. This changes the economics completely. Even under ideal conditions, the amount of milk you could realistically collect from a sow, after fighting her anatomy, racing her letdown window, and competing with a litter of aggressive piglets, would be small. Small enough that no serious agricultural system could ever justify building infrastructure around it. Compare that with why cows became dairy animals. Cows are, when you step back and think about it, almost suspiciously well suited for dairy farming. They are large animals, so they produce large quantities of milk. They are relatively calm and can be handled routinely without serious danger to the farmer. They can survive on grass and other fibrous plant material that is cheap and widely available. They live in herds, which makes managing large numbers of them practical. Their udders are physically accessible, centralized, and compatible with mechanical milking equipment. They produce far more milk than their calves need. And crucially, you can milk a cow every single day for months without harming her. She can then produce another calf, and the cycle begins again. That last part is genuinely remarkable. A dairy cow is a renewable food resource. You are not consuming the animal to get the food. You are using the animal repeatedly, continuously, across years of productive life. The same cow that gave you milk today will give you milk tomorrow, next week, next month. That's an extraordinary economic arrangement that humans recognized and exploited brilliantly. Now imagine trying to replicate that with pigs. A sow is intelligent, strong, fast, and not particularly interested in cooperating with your morning milking routine. A large sow with a litter of piglets can be genuinely dangerous if she feels threatened or stressed. Pigs are not herd animals in the same manageable sense as cattle. They do not stand quietly in a barn waiting to be attended to. And even if all of that were somehow solved, you'd still be getting a relatively small amount of milk from a difficult, potentially dangerous process. The farmer's question writes itself: why bother? Humans are extremely good at answering that question. We don't just ask whether we can eat something. We ask whether we can produce it cheaply, reliably, and at enormous scale. That calculation is where pigs lose completely. There's also the composition angle worth noting. Pig milk is particularly rich in fat and protein because piglets need to grow at a rapid pace. A piglet needs to transform from a vulnerable newborn into a robust, mobile animal very quickly. So pig milk is engineered by evolution for speed. It's dense, powerful, high calorie. That doesn't make it bad for humans. It just means it's different from what we're used to processing, and different from what our existing dairy infrastructure is built to handle. Cheese, butter, yogurt, and all the downstream products humans have developed over millennia are optimized around cow milk composition. Adapting all of that to pig milk would require enormous reinvestment for uncertain gain. History shows humans were actually quite experimental. We didn't arbitrarily pick cows. Across different cultures and geographies, humans milked goats, sheep, camels, buffalo, yaks, mares, donkeys, reindeer, and occasionally other animals under specific circumstances. The pattern behind which animals made it into dairy culture is consistent: manageable behavior, accessible anatomy, sufficient milk yield, reliable reproduction, and an ability to eat cheap, available food. Cattle, goats, and sheep hit every mark. Pigs hit almost none. Domestication isn't a random process. It's a long, slow optimization over generations. The animals that became central to human food systems weren't necessarily the animals with the tastiest or most nutritious products. They were the animals with the right combination of biology and behavior. Animals that could be integrated into human life without constant conflict, injury, or impracticality. And once a system exists, it becomes nearly impossible to replace. The global dairy industry built around cattle is one of the largest food systems in human history. Farms, equipment, transportation networks, processing plants, regulatory frameworks, consumer habits, recipes, and cultural traditions, all of it has been built and refined across thousands of years. To replace even a portion of that with pig dairy would require building a completely parallel infrastructure from scratch, using an animal that is harder to handle, harder to milk, and produces less milk per animal. And all of that effort would be competing against a system that is already enormous, efficient, and deeply embedded in the way humans eat. So imagine the prehistoric farmer making the decision. There's a pig nearby. It has a litter of piglets. You could spend an hour trying to collect a few cups of milk from an agitated, potentially dangerous animal, racing a 20-second letdown window. Or you could walk to your cow and spend that same hour collecting several liters with minimal stress. The decision isn't exactly difficult. We don't drink pig milk because pigs are genuinely terrible dairy animals. Their anatomy makes milking difficult. Their milk is released in brief bursts rather than steady flows. Their piglets consume nearly all of it. The amount left for humans is minimal, And pigs are far more economically valuable to us doing something else entirely, converting feed into meat efficiently, which is something they do spectacularly well. Cows, meanwhile, are essentially the opposite answer to every problem pigs present. So humans didn't sit down one day and randomly assign dairy status to certain animals. We tested nature's options over thousands of years of trial, failure, and practical observation. Cows turned out to be one of the best possible answers. Pigs turned out to be one of the worst. The pig wasn't rejected because its milk tasted bad. It was rejected because the pig itself is a terrible dairy machine, which is why tomorrow morning when you pour milk into your coffee, you probably won't have to worry about a pig staring at you from the carton. It has much better things to do, like turning your breakfast into bacon.